Your life as every level of a CIA operation. Level 1. The applicant. You're filling out an online form. Name, address, work history, education. The CIA website looks like any other government portal. Bland, bureaucratic, slightly outdated design. You click submit and wait. Most people never hear back. The application disappears into a database somewhere, filtered by algorithms looking for patterns you'll never understand. 6 months pass. Then an email arrives. They want to talk. You fly to Virginia on your own dime. The building could be any corporate office park. There's no dramatic entrance, no guards with sunglasses, no sense that you're stepping into the world of espionage. Just a reception desk and fluorescent lights humming overhead. A woman in business casual hands you a visitor badge and points you toward a conference room. The man who interviews you wears khakis and a polo shirt. He looks like someone's dad. For 4 hours, he asks questions that seem random but aren't. Where did you grow up? What languages do you speak? Tell me about a time you had to make a difficult ethical decision. Have you ever traveled to Iran, Syria, North Korea? The questions build a profile you can't see taking shape. He's mapping your psychology, your loyalties, your vulnerabilities. You're being evaluated on dimensions you don't know exist. 3 weeks later, another email. You've passed the initial screening. Now comes the polygraph. The room is smaller than you expected. A technician straps sensors to your chest, your fingers, your forearm. The questions start simple. Is your name really what you said it is? Then they get harder. Have you ever committed a crime you weren't caught for? Have you ever betrayed someone's trust? The machine measures your heart rate, your breathing, the electrical conductivity of your skin. It can't actually detect lies, but the technician doesn't tell you that. The uncertainty is the point. You sweat through answers you know are true, but suddenly doubt. When it's over, you have no idea if you passed. But you did. The letter arrives 2 months later. Welcome to the Clandestine Service Trainee Program. You're going to the farm. Level 2. The Farm Camp. Peary sits on 9,000 acres of Virginia woodland. The locals know it exists, but don't talk about it. Your phone gets locked in a secure facility the day you arrive. For the next year and a half, you're disconnected from everything outside these fences. You wake at 5 miles before breakfast, every morning, regardless of weather. Your instructors are former operators who've done things they'll never discuss. They teach you skills that sound simple until you try them. Spotting surveillance isn't about looking for obvious followers. It's about noticing the same car 3 intersections apart. The woman at the coffee shop who was also at the bookstore yesterday. The man reading a newspaper who glanced at you twice. Pattern recognition becomes instinct. You learn to lose a tail, duck into a department store, move through 3 floors using escalators and elevators unpredictably, exit through the employee entrance, slip into a waiting car that's already moving. The first time you try this in a practice exercise in Richmond, you fail spectacularly. Your instructor spots you within 2 blocks. You try again and again. Eventually, your movements become fluid. You stop thinking and start reacting. Lock-picking sounds romantic until you're fumbling with tension, wrenches at 3 in the morning, your fingers cramping, sweat dripping into your eyes. The locks come from real embassies. The safes are pulled from actual government buildings. If you can't crack them here, you won't crack them overseas. Some trainees wash out on the technical skills alone. Their hands shake too much. Their patience runs out. They're competent at everything except the one thing that matters most in the moment. The real education is recruitment. Every intelligence service does the same thing. Convince people to betray their countries. Your instructors teach you the 4 motivations. Money works on people with expensive problems. Ideology works on true believers who think their government has lost its way. Coercion works on people with secrets they can't afford to have exposed. Ego works on people who need to feel important, who crave recognition they're not getting from their own side. Your job is diagnosis. Figure out which pressure point exists, then press it methodically until something breaks. You run practice operations in nearby cities. Your instructors play foreign intelligence officers trying to catch you. The scenarios feel absurd at first. You're pretending to recruit a Russian diplomat at a Norfolk bar, and the whole thing seems like theater. But the consequences are real. If you get caught, you fail the exercise. Fail too many exercises, and you're out. The washout rate hovers around 40%. Some people can't handle the constant deception. Some discover they have moral boundaries they didn't know existed. Some are just unlucky, caught in scenarios where every decision leads to failure. The ones who make it aren't necessarily the smartest. They're the ones who can lie to anyone, including themselves. They can compartmentalize. Do something morally questionable on Tuesday, then go home and sleep soundly. That ability isn't taught, it's revealed. The training just exposes who has it and who doesn't. You graduate in the top 15%. Not the best, not barely scraping through, solidly competent. They give you a badge and a cover identity. On paper, you're a political officer. In practice, you're about to become something else entirely. Level 3. The Case Officer. Your first posting is Eastern Europe, a former Soviet state still figuring out its relationship with the West. The Cold War ended decades ago, but the tension never fully dissolved. It just transformed into something more ambiguous. The embassy is a fortress disguised as an office building. Marines guard the entrance. Diplomats shuffle between meetings that accomplish nothing. You have an office on the 3rd floor with your cover name on the door. Political attaché. Nobody believes it, but nobody says otherwise. Your real work happens outside the building. Diplomatic receptions where you shake hands with ministry officials and remember everything they say. Coffee meetings with journalists who know more than they print. Lunches with businessmen who travel to places Americans can't reach. Everyone is a potential asset. Everyone has access to something. Your first recruitment target is a mid-level bureaucrat in the foreign ministry. He handles diplomatic cables, routine stuff mostly, but routine intelligence compounds into understanding. He has a problem. Gambling debts, not catastrophic yet, but growing. You don't approach him directly. That would be clumsy. Instead, you become a regular at the casino he frequents. You play at nearby tables. You nod in recognition. Eventually, you strike up a conversation. 3 months pass before you loan him money, just enough to cover one bad night. He promises to pay you back. You wave it off. Friends help friends. The next loan is larger, then larger still. By the time he understands what's happening, he owes you $50,000. Now comes the ask. Not for state secrets, just some documents, nothing important, just enough to clear the debt. He agrees because refusing means financial ruin. You file a report. Langley is pleased. You've just recruited your first asset inside a foreign government. The process feels mechanical, clinical. You expected to feel something more, pride maybe, guilt possibly. Instead, you feel professional satisfaction, the same emotion you'd feel after fixing a car engine or solving a difficult equation. Over 18 months, you recruit 4 more assets. A military officer angry about being passed over for promotion. A scientist who believes his research is being suppressed. A secretary with access to classified correspondence who needs money for her daughter's medical treatment. Each recruitment follows a different script, but the underlying mechanics stay the same. Find the vulnerability, apply pressure, extract compliance. The work becomes routine until it stops being routine. One of your assets disappears. The scientist, he misses a scheduled meeting, then another. You check the usual dead drops, nothing. 3 days later, his photo appears in a local newspaper. Arrested for espionage. The article doesn't mention which country he was working for, but the message is clear. Someone inside his organization knew. Either he got careless or someone betrayed him. You never learn which. The station chief pulls you from active recruitment for 2 months while security reviews your entire network. The other assets are quietly deactivated. Some are reassigned to other handlers. Some are extracted from the country entirely. One simply disappears. You don't ask what happened. You already know the possibilities. This is the part they don't emphasize during training. Assets die, sometimes because they make mistakes, sometimes because you make mistakes, sometimes because intelligence work is statistical and the numbers eventually catch up with everyone. You're supposed to care, but not too much. Care enough to run them carefully, not so much that their death paralyzes you. Level 4. The ghosts. The deputy chief of station calls you into his office. He doesn't waste time with pleasantries. They want to put you under non-official cover, no diplomatic protection, no embassy to retreat to. If something goes wrong, the government will deny you exist. The position pays better. The missions matter more. The risks are astronomical. You say yes before he finishes explaining the details. They build you a legend. That's the technical term for a complete fake identity. You become a management consultant. The company you work for is real. It has offices, employees, clients. Most of them don't know the company exists primarily to give CIA officers believable cover. You travel to countries where official intelligence presence would create diplomatic problems. You meet people the embassy could never approach. You recruit assets that diplomatic officers could never touch. Your girlfriend back home thinks you travel too much for work. She stopped asking questions months ago. Your parents think you left government service years ago for private sector money. Your neighbors think you're boring, a consultant who works long hours and travels constantly. Nobody suspects anything because there's nothing suspicious to see. You've become invisible by being aggressively ordinary. The loneliness is comprehensive. You can't tell anyone what you actually do. Can't share frustrations about work. Can't celebrate successes. The only people who know the truth are your handlers back at Langley, and you haven't seen them in person in over a year. All communication flows through encrypted channels and dead drops. You're in Beirut when your cover almost breaks. Local intelligence starts following you. They photograph you meeting an asset. You spot the surveillance and abort, but the damage is done. You're not burned completely, but you're compromised. You can never return to that region. They pull you out and offer something different. The Special Activities Division. Not spies who occasionally carry guns. Soldiers who occasionally gather intelligence. The most dangerous work the agency does happens here. Operations too sensitive for the military. Missions too deniable for official forces. You accept because staying in traditional intelligence work means a desk job now. Your field career is over unless you're willing to become something else. Something harder. Something that operates in the space where policy ends and violence begins. You don't get a ceremony. You don't get a thank you. You get a new legend, a new cover, and a plane ticket to a country you can't name. The person you were when you filled out that application doesn't exist anymore. Not because the agency erased you, because the work did. Piece by piece, mission by mission, lie by lie, until the only thing left is the operator. The application form is still there on the CIA website. Right now, someone is filling it out, typing their name into those bland, bureaucratic fields. They're imagining adventure. They're imagining purpose. They're imagining Jason Bourne and James Bond and all the fictional versions of this work that bear no resemblance to reality. They don't know about the loneliness yet, the moral compromises that accumulate like interest, the assets who disappear, the lies that become more real than truth. But they'll learn. Everyone does. The machine needs new people. It always has. The cycle continues whether you're part of it or not.